All right. Thanks for being here today. Animators, I'm sure there's other titles or other things you do, but Bill and Karen, I don't know if you want to say the last name. In your experience, how much has animation changed since you first started in the field?
Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. Well, happy to be here. Thanks for having us on. This is exciting. Yeah. I mean, we could a lot.
A lot. Yeah. When we were in school, it was still the transition from like 2D animation was everything that was done. It was all like Disney 2D hand-drawn animation and computer CGI. 3D animation was like the rage everyone was talking about, and it feels like it's constantly churning, and it feels like the industry is always in constant state of flux.
Well, especially in the past like 6 months too.
Yeah.
It's like everything has been just thrown into chaos a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the strikes, the writer strikes and the actor strikes, which, you know, animation fully supported, and we were totally behind. We loved the games they made, but yeah, it's now it's like everyone's trying to find their feet again a little bit. And then with the looming possible threat of AI, or is it going to change things, or what's it going to do? Is it going to do nothing? Is it going to do something?
Right.
You know, everything's just a big old
there's a lot of
so.
uncertainty and unknowns right now, which the industry's been through in the past, but it's just like it's a constant feeling like there's always something, it seems.
Right. Like when we were in college and in art school and stuff like that, it was like CGI is going to kill 2D animation. It's as good as dead, but it didn't. It just changed things a bit, and now we're seeing awesome combinations of both to make really cool art pieces, like in like Spider-Verse and all the new visual
Ninja Turtle
stuff.
movie that came out.
That one too.
There's like all these predictions that happened back then. None of them came true. There's still studios producing 2D animation. It's still very popular. There's still stop motion animation, like, and CGI also wasn't this big giant money time saver that they all predicted it to be. So that's kind of what we're seeing is like kind of what might be happening right now in the animation industry. It's like all these big bold predictions are being made, but I don't think a lot of them are going to come true, but something new is definitely going to come out of it that no one's going to predict.
So we're staying, you know, optimistic and just doing our own thing and just plugging along, and we know animation will be different coming out of this. We don't know how.
Yeah, we'll figure out
for it.
Yeah.
What kind of animation do y'all do mainly?
We do 2D and like, I guess you could call it like digital animation, because we're not doing 2D like paper, you know, like the old style 2D, which is also still out there too. It still exists too, but we do more digital 2D animation on the computers. So
which type of animation is the most cost productive, or, you know, the amount of cost to whatever your finished product is, the easiest one?
So that's a big question.
That's a big question.
It's kind of like the question that, you know, we get all the time, you know, getting clients and stuff, is like, how much does animation cost? And it's like, I wish it were just a cut and dry, like we could say like it costs this much, because there's so many variables. There's tons of variables. Like there's animation in commercials, there's animation on YouTube videos, there's also animation in the movies, and you know, there's the big giant movie animation stuff. So it's like you got this huge range from just really simple animation to really complicated animation, and of course the price reflects that. So it's, and also that's having our own studio and our own projects. That's actually a big thing that we have to keep in mind all the time with different projects that we do, is keeping the budget in mind, because it's so easy with animation to make the budget get huge, because you can noodle things, you can get into details with things, you can, you know, make the cost skyrocket by just being picky. Yeah, so it's like you got to keep, so it's like it's more, it's less about like which one's the most cost productive for your goal, you know, for your end product. You know, it's like, what's the biggest thing for you? Is it like, do you want it to look like Spider-Verse, or are you just doing an intro for your YouTube video? You know, it's like does it work for the story? Does it work for what you want? Is budget the biggest thing?
It's like the I feel like the question isn't is kind of like isn't the right question to be asking, because the most cost effective, because it's a making a movie, making animation, it's a creative endeavor, and the most cost efficient thing you can do if you're wanting to create something, whether you're going to hire artists or you're going to make it yourself, is to have a clear understanding of what it is you're trying to tell. Are you telling a story? Are you trying to advertise something? Or what is it you're trying to do? And the more clear you are on what your goal is and what the task of your whatever you're trying to make is, that's the most cost-effective thing you can do. Because there's so many times where like clients will just be like, I just want it to be good, and then they'll say like, I want it to be good like Disney does good, or I want it to be good like SpongeBob does good. Okay, those are completely different things. You just want good, and that's a big nebulous thing, and that's going to balloon your cost, because obviously it's coming from a place of, I don't know what my thing is. And that's where it's like the most that's why I feel like it's not like the different type of animation. If you're an animator, the most cost-effective animation you can do is the animation you're best at.
Yeah, true.
Because that's your strength, and that's what you're going to lean on, and that's what we do. Like we came up from games, and so doing this digital using puppets and rigs is like, that's our bread and butter, and that's our most cost-effective animation to do. If you asked us to do 3D CGI, okay, we can take time to learn it, but that wouldn't be cost-effective for us. But if you're creating something, know what you're trying to make, and know the scope of it, and that's going to save you money, because then you're not, because there's always time to make these things, and when you're paying people or you're paying someone to make it for you, the time they're putting in it is always going to raise the cost. And so if you're taking time because you're not clear, that's the biggest time sink. That's what's your biggest cost is going to come from your not being able to say, I like this is done, let's move on.
So are puppets and rigs, is that like a stop motion, or is that something else?
I think saying puppets and rigs is a little bit
that's not the best thing.
I don't think that's the best. Like ours is I'd say it's more 2D. It's more because we're not using a 3D space, we're using a 2D space in it to make it. So it's like animation you see that SpongeBob is 2D shows, things like that. Like 3D is like
so what it is like there's rigs and puppets that a lot of animation software can use.
They just call them rigs now.
They just call them rigs now. Yeah, I think calling them puppets is a
rigs,
misnomer. That's dating me.
It is.
But basically, yeah, you can rig up characters. It's there's rigging in 3D animation, and this is kind of like, I guess, like kind of taking what works in 3D animation and bringing it over to 2D animation, because you can create a character, you can rig them to how their head moves, you can turn their head, you can have all these different things built into the character, but you still need a trained animator to animate them and know what new assets you might need to create, or how that puppet's going to move and stuff. So it's kind of, and what it does is it trades, okay, I don't have to draw everything. So that's kind of the trade-off, but all the drawing is still done up front, because you have to build all the rigs, you have to build all the art pieces. It's like, so it's kind of like somewhere in between traditional hand-drawn animation and then computer generated animation, but it's somewhere in between. It's kind of a nebulous,
like a library of things you can put together.
Yeah.
You use symbols and you draw the symbols and you use that, and you have kind of like a library of assets to pull from and to draw from and things like that. And
you try to anticipate all your needs on the front, so that when you send off all your rigs and shots to your animators, then they're just moving the rig and getting it time to the acting, and there's not much they have to add. So it saves the animators time in not having to draw everything, but you have to do all that drawing in the beginning beforehand. It's like having going to a buffet where all the food is made for you, or going to a restaurant where they make it for you when you ordered it. If that analogy makes any sense at all, I don't know. Like,
anytime you can put a buffet into the analogy, you're doing good. See, when I think of rigs, I think of Lethal Weapon. And when I was policing and I got to a scene like a crash scene or some big scene where there's a lot of people, I used to say, has anybody seen rigs? And I'd find somebody and ask them. And then it would take a few minutes to see if they Riggs and Murtaugh. But so the classic cartoons that I grew up with, I guess, like Looney Tunes, maybe a little bit older than me, but like maybe Tom and Jerry and things, those are all 2D. And those are just drawn in different cells.
Yeah.
And now you have, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, those are the like original, you can call that like the original 2D. They drew on a light table desk on paper. You know, and then took the pictures
onto cells and then photograph those cells against the background.
But what we have now with the technology is that can all be put into the computer. We draw on Wacom tablets. We draw like straight on it, or Wacom. I call them Wacom, but like draw straight into the computer, and then the coloring and all that can be done right in there. And to add to like the whole Riggs idea, those cartoons, they had to draw every frame or every 2 frames because it was called on twos. So it's like it was held for a frame. So it'd be like 2 frames and then a new drawing and 2 frames and a new drawing and 2 frames. But with the computer using a rig, you don't have to do an entirely new drawing.
Yeah. If I'm getting this on camera, if I'm drawing the animation of my hand moving up and down, in the old days, I'd have to draw every position of the hand. Now I just have the hand drawn in the computer, and I say, okay, from this frame to this frame, draw every in between, and it's already drawn. So I don't have to draw it. The computer moves it between those positions, and then you can adjust the timing and all these different things.
Yeah, and what we've done nowadays is that we can also incorporate drawing new things when we can, so you can get the illusion of like a head turning, because we draw what's necessary and the computer fills in what's not necessary for drawing each individual.
Right. And then the animator then says, okay, I'm drawing this. Now I want to have maybe the hand rotate or do this to make it feel more real or better. And that's where they add their own expertise and they add that to it. But a lot of the heavy lifting is being done by the computer. So now the animator can go in and say, oh, I can make this better by adding this, or I can do this, or they can kind of fine tune it.
Yeah.
So back in the 70s, I think they had The Hobbit, which was an animated movie. And then they had, after that, The Lord of the Rings, which was kind of a live action with animation over it, or was it just colored in over it? Because they use like Germans marching and then they would draw orcs over them and use that.
Yeah.
Is that still considered animation?
Oh yeah, I consider it that. Yeah, I mean the definition is constantly evolving. That's rotoscoping.
Rotoscoping,
right?
Yeah.
He was a big fan of those movies. I think we have them.
We have them on,
I think we have them on DVD. Yeah,
it's got some good soundtracks.
Yes.
Oh, it's great movies.
And it's a style of animation, I call it. Like everything we're talking about, like there are still people out there who do animation on paper, and that's awesome because you get a different style. Everything I see it as tools. It's like an artist that does watercolor instead of oil paint. You get a different outlook. Both are beautiful, it's like, and they use different tools, different brushes, different paints. So it's like, there's people who still do it on paper. There's the rotoscope. There's still rotoscoping today. You can do that on the computer too. It gets that look to it.
300 did a lot of that because that's a live action movie, but then they kind of interspersed it with effects and lighting and giving it a certain look. There was the one that comes to my mind is always a Scanner Darkly, where it's animated, but it was a live action shots, and then they rotoscoped and drew things over it. And there was a recent cartoon on Amazon. I can't remember the name of it, but
I know
they did something similar where they had it was animated, but it was because it was live action with
No, I know a good example. There's an awesome movie. I think it's on Amazon. You can stream it on there. It's called Loving Vincent.
Oh, yes.
They took a weekend. They filmed the whole film, and then they went in and painted each cell as an oil painting because it's after Vincent van Gogh. So that's rotoscoping. And because they would take each thing projected onto the canvas for the artist, and they would paint each frame, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. So that's a good example of rotoscoping. Too. I mean, they do it a lot for like dancing, animations and stuff. It's everywhere. Again, it's just a style. And
even
actually,
old Disney animators would use sometimes live action footage. I don't know if it's fully rotoscoped, but there's a lot of reference to the
Max Fleischer one.
Yeah, Max Fleischer.
Did he do the clown? Or he dances to like Minnie the Moocher. This is like, we're talking like 1930s.
Yeah, this is
now.
way like old.
Yeah, and that was kind of how it was. Using rotoscoping and stuff is kind of how they kind of set up like the rules for animation, seeing how things move. There's that book in which someone it's an old book, black and white, and they just took pictures of like a running horse and a person diving into a pool and just all these different actions, and they were just seeing how it breaks down to animation. So they have the principles of animation now, and I think that got set up by animating over live action and rotoscoping. So yeah, it's just a different style, I say. Yeah.
How much of what you use on a daily basis did you learn in school versus on the job?
Like 90% on the job.
90% on the job, yeah. I love telling this story. So both of us went to school, and we both have our degrees in media arts animation, and we met in school. But then we were like a couple months out of school. We moved up to LA, and we found out that there was it was Adobe. It was Flash at the time, but they were taking it was a bunch of the major studios that used Adobe Flash at the time. And they're like, we wanted to train a whole bunch of new animators. So we went and took this 4-week workshop, and we learned more about how to use this program in the 4 weeks than the 3 years at school we went to. Since then, Adobe Animate's kind of our bread and butter program, but
it started
all the techniques that we learned there, we still use to this day. And even for some of the jobs that like I've worked and Karen's worked for using other programs, using other software, a lot of it's done on the job and learning. But at the same time, like a caveat to that though is that what we learned at school was the basics that then so that it's like, okay, I'm working on this job, or I need to do this on this program. I know I need to do that because of the education that we did get in college. So it's kind of like, okay, yeah, most of the stuff I've done, it's all been on the job training, but at the same time, like I only know what works and what doesn't work because I went to school for it.
Yeah, and also the networking. I mean, our biggest project that we're wrapping up right now was a networking thing from someone I met at college. So, I find it like a mixed bag for art students, animation students in college. It's kind of like what works best for your personality, for your thing. Like I know personally, like I knew I had to do college because like I liked the structure and going to classes and learning the things, like having a class I had to go to, when especially nowadays, everything you can find online, you can do on YouTube, you could do it online and find the same skills. And it's not really one of the careers where it's like they are looking for the degree. They're looking for the portfolio. They're looking for the skills. They're looking for the word of mouth. They're looking for your presence. And whether or not you need a college experience to get there or not is really personal, because some people do really thrive in like just like getting themselves up and going and learning the things themselves. While me, I needed the like kick in the pants to like get me in a classroom and to get me learning the basics of the programs. Also learning the basics of the programs, because the programs are constantly changing. There's always a new animation program to do, but knowing those basics, it's like it takes a step out of like learning a new one. It's like, okay, learning a new tools, but I already know how to open files, how to save things, how to do, it's like, the tools and then you just build on top of it. And it's like, I know I really needed that to do it. And also to help me with the networking, because where I grew up, there was not a big animation art world. It was very suburbia, like it was weird for me to go into this this thing. So it's like going away to college in a area with a bunch of people that had similar interests to me was huge. So it's like that was big for my situation. Is it necessary? Not for everybody, you know. So it's like you got to do a lot of inner reflection.
Like Karen had said, it's down to like your personal taste. There's like there's pros and cons to both. I mean, when I was started, I was kind of trying to just kind of figure it out on my own because I knew a lot of people. I was just kind of like mulling around at a community college. I think nowadays, today, like because the internet wasn't what it was when I was in school, and to where it is now. And I see dating ourselves. Just watching as we age on screen here. Back when we had to use a rotary phone. There was what I'm seeing, because I've been seeing a lot of things popping up online where there's so much information out there. Like everyone that knows how to do something has put a tutorial out there.
Yeah, true.
And there's good things and bad things to that. The good thing is that the access is right there. You don't have to go far. You don't have to do much. It's right there at your fingertips. You can find, how do I draw faces? You'll find a million tutorials on how to draw it. But at the same time, that's also where that's the crux of it too, because that can get overwhelming. That can be overwhelming, and two, you don't even know how much of that information is actually like good. like just because there's a tutorial and they sound like they know what they're talking about, and there's a visual and you see it, you don't know if that's actually, does this actually work? Is this actually like a decent way? And also part of being an artist, like there's the old saying, a good artist borrows and a great artist steals, or a good artist copies and a great artist steals. And over my time and career, I found that what that means is that, so someone will come along and say and show you like, hey, here's how I paint birds or something like that, or I paint landscapes, and you watch them and you learn. What you need to do as an artist is that you need to take that technique and you need to process it and make it your technique. Gotcha. That's the stealing part. I've taken what you did and I've made it mine. And a lot of times, if you're just fed a lot of like short, quick tutorials, there's none of that. I've taken it and made it mine. You're just following tutorials that you don't know quite work or not. So it's kind of like the difference between a curated art gallery to one that's just everyone shows up with their doodles for the day. It's like one, like there's,
but that's also a double-edged sword.
There's pros and cons to both. Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I feel like that's where we're at right now with education versus not education. Like, what do you need? It's like there's a lot of pros and cons to both. So you have to really, I mean, it goes back to what I said about like, understanding what you want in your project. It comes down to understanding who you are and what you need is where I think that's you find
much bigger conversation.
And that's a much bigger conversation.
How to find yourself as an artist and what's your style and what you want to do. I think that's something you do for your entire life. I don't know if it ever ends. Yeah.
I know. Still figuring it out.
Still figuring it out.
Do you see much AI influence in animation? Like, is there a program that kind of gives parameters to an AI and then that can just use all different types of animation to make something?
So
they're trying. They keep advertising that stuff like that's available, but I haven't seen it. And
okay, so personally, my thoughts on it is that AI could be a useful tool, could be handy for things. Like I see spell check as like AI, like a version of AI, which is super handy for me because I got terrible spelling. So it's like that has saved me in so many emails, but it's like, but having AI write my emails for me, oh no thanks. It's like that's like I wouldn't trust it to that. And I think the same goes, that's the way I see it for art, because I use Photoshop a lot, and Photoshop has had content aware fill for a long time, and it's helped a lot for filling in spots in like my compositions and stuff to be like, oh shoot, I need to take out this one tiny thing and fill it in. I can use content aware, that's getting into details, but that'll help. And I think an AI version of that would be just like a beefed up version of that to help. But I don't want it to like create my entire composition for me. It's like I'm creating the composition. I'm controlling the car, I guess you could say. And then, but I see AI as like just making it a more beefier car, you know,
Right.
that can go faster, you know, rather than letting it drive.
Supplement.
Yeah, and it's a tool. It's like a better paintbrush kind of thing. And I think if it's seen like that, it can really be an asset. But
I'm a little more harsh on AI. I feel like it's like the technology itself is really interesting. I remember following a lot of what was going on with like neural networks and and what they were doing with it. And it seemed really interesting, but it feels like where it is right now, it feels like that like going back to where when we got in animation with this, with like between like the death of 2D and here's 3D. That's the kind of stuff they were talking about way back when. Like you could just tell a computer to make a whole film. And
that's what they were saying.
And that's what they were saying. And you can't. And it actually wasn't any cheaper than 2D animation. You just now have balloon costs. And I mean, Spider-Verse costs like hundreds of millions of dollars to make. It looks amazing. And, and there's a lot of stuff they can do, but it's just different tools and different how tools work. It doesn't necessarily mean the audience is there because you used this different paintbrush than another brush. It's the audience is always there because they want to connect with the story. I want to be told a story that I love. I get into the characters and I can escape for 2 hours and enjoy that time. I don't see like now I see with AI right now, I see like the same promises. Hey, type in a thing and you can produce a whole movie.
That'd be a disaster.
But there's some there was a recent film. I can't remember the title of it, but I saw I read a news article on it. It was like a short film was made about a character whose head's a balloon, and it was all done with AI. And I always say AI in quotes because it was made. It was all the shots were created AI. But even then, I think they had like it was like upper hundreds to like thousands of shots they had to produce to get one shot for the movie. So it was like a 1,000-to-1 ratio of shots they produced to shots they used. And even on some of the shots that they did use, they had to have a human artist come in and touch it up because the computer didn't give the right color balloon, or there were lots of artifacts they had to clean up. So it seems like a wonderful tool, but I think the hype of what it can do, it sounds like stuff of old times. Wow, just type in things and make a movie, and the computer makes a movie. And a lot of times, I remember explaining that to my parents once, like, don't they just make stuff in the computer?
Like, yeah,
it's made in the computer, but I still have to make it. Yeah. Like, I have to tell the computer where to put the pixels and do all these different things. So all the hype that's going on, we're like, oh, we're gonna take away artists, and now you can be the artist because now you can do all this stuff. It sounds more like advertised to someone like it sounds like it's being advertised like, hey, you didn't think you could draw good, now you can draw good just by using this magic. And it sounds like, well, nothing's stopping you from just drawing and having fun with it. There is a inherent fun and joy to creating something that's yours, and AI is a great tool for that. But it can't be it's being trying to be set up as this like replacement for that.
I don't think so.
That's them
making
those predictions. I don't think are going to come true.
The hype is huge. I think the wave is huge right now. I can't predict what it's going to look like after this wave like crashes and everything settles again. It's definitely going to be different. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I think it'll be a tool. Yeah.
So it's like a person with a hammer and a chisel writing into some stone, and then somebody comes along and goes, hey, this pencil can write the whole thing for you. You just have to control it.
You just have to write.
Right.
Yeah, like writing still exists. Like writing didn't get destroyed by the advent of the keyboard or the computer. It still exists. It's just
it always comes
evolves,
comes down to like why was someone chiseling or painting things on a cave wall, and granted whether it's written on pencil or done on a paintbrush or done on a computer, it's always an expression of our humanity, of an idea or something we're trying to say. And if the person I mean, we've even talked about our process where it's like we're building everything we think is needed, but there still needs to be an artist that comes in and says, I'm going to tweak this a little bit because I think that that'll help this shot or this performance or this angle or whatever sing just a little bit more. Then you want that. You want artists to be. You want that collaboration. You want that energy from your artist, because it's like you can see stuff where it's like, did anyone have fun making this? Like there's no joy, or I'm not getting the feeling that's coming from this. And you want your artist to be passionate. You want your artist to be excited about what they're working on, because whatever feeling or mood you want from that art, you're going to get if your artists are trying to push for that. And if they're not there, it's going to come out. It's going to be evident in the work.
Yeah.
I feel like when AI takes over and there's Cylons, then they'll make a movie about humans and what they thought about AI, and this will be in that documentary.
Of course.
Look at what they thought. So, with thinking about having a production company, how much of an extra layer of work or consideration is that to your animation when you're thinking about producing something to be animated?
Well, yeah, there's definitely been a shift, because we've both worked, as on a team, and then now we're building the team. And so I know the biggest lesson and the biggest change in, like, I guess, mentality goes with that, like, you're steering the entire ship, so you have to have that, like, overview of everything in mind. Like, when you're the artist and you're working on a scene, you want to make that scene as best as possible, and that's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. That's the best thing you can do. But when you are running the entire production, you have to think of all the different variables. You have to overlook the whole thing. Like, you can't get mired down in just the itty bitty anymore. Right. You have to let that go and be the artist's jobs, because you have to think of, we have to stay on budget. We have to stay on our deadlines. We have to stay on whatever the client needs or the projects. You have to know the end goal, and you have to keep that in mind, and you have to keep it running, because it's so easy to get mired down in the details, because an animated work is so collaborative, and there's so many different moving pieces that it's so important to have someone to keep every moving piece going.
Shepherd.
Like
I was talking. I was recently did a little meetup with a bunch of recent grads from North Carolina University in animation. They came out to LA, and I went to this dinner with a bunch of them and some other industry professionals. And I was telling them that like animation is a total team effort. It's like a working ship. And you like, there's entry level jobs. And that's like the bowels of the ship. You're working the engine, you're keeping the ship going, you're tweaking little things, you're mopping the deck, you're doing all these little stuff that help that on the outside help the ship look nice and work and run smooth. But then the people telling those people what to do is like the next rung, and then finally you have the captain of the ship. And the captain of the ship, a good captain knows how each one of those steps are done, so that they understand what it is that they're asking that person to do, and what to look for, and how to do that. And but then there's also the there's one other rung that's not on the ship, and that's the person that owns the ship. And I feel like that's where we're at with our company, is because it's like we've done all the steps on the ship, but now we're also learning what it is to own a company and own the ship and send the ship where it needs to go. And it still feels like there is a benefit to, because we've worked all those different rungs of the ship, we've worked all those different decks, we've worked all those different positions. And so having that, it's very useful having that overview of everything, because that's been the biggest change for us, because we were so used to being a cog in that machine to now we've steered the machine, and now we own our own machine, and we're trying to figure out where to go next with that machine. Like it's
true. It's
wrapping your mind around all these different layers of it.
It's huge. Yeah, lots of layers, lots of different things to think about, and yeah, to get that ship out.
Yeah, get out there.
Onions have layers.
Yes, that's true. Like ogres. Yeah. And we definitely feel like ogres sometimes when we're in the grips of it and hanging out in our caves doing the animation. And
oh yeah, we haven't left this
like
room
ogres,
in 3 years. This has been our life.
I'm sure people that are animating or doing the work appreciate having somebody that understands the work and knows what they need before they need it. And that
Right.
makes
I was talking
Makes it
to a
simple.
friend about this. It's like the difference of like being a fresh lieutenant, and you get into the field, and a good fresh lieutenant knows to listen to their sergeant, sort of thing. Like it's like because in the ones that don't listen to their sergeant, who's been on the front lines, knows what they're doing, is maybe not making the best decisions. Like
But
that's
then
how we equated it.
we've also been in productions where it's like where the fallacy of like, oh, you're an amazing artist, you should lead this team, you're going to do a great job, but does that person have the leadership qualities to run the team? You know, it's like it's an extra set of skills.
It's a whole other skill set that if your sole focus is just art, you might not pick up.
Right, because if you get mired on, because the art is the fun part, really. Like, well, when you're us, like that's the fun part. That it's not the fun part to have the meetings and do the tracking and figure all that stuff and keep everyone moving and checking in with everyone. So it's like that's a bit that you have to let go of when you get into the role of leading the team. You have to, granted, yes, you can still jump in and help the team with the art when needed, but you won't do as much as you used to when you used to be like in it. You have to let go because the team needs you as a team leader more than just being the best artist or being the best animator. You've now gone above that. So it's like if you don't want that, if you just want to be the artist, then maybe being the director, being the supervisor, being the production person isn't really the best for you. But then again, if you have that drive to be the team leader, that might be the next step up that you're not scratching sort of thing, you know? So it's like, it's been a lot of interesting things we've learned along the way, you know?
What are the top 3 things you think a entry level or a person that is wants to get into animation? What are the 3 best things they can do to prepare themselves for a career in animation?
Ooh, that's a good one.
I've got it. Because they always call you back if you're 2 of these 3 things.
This one.
If you're really good at your job, if you get the work done on time,
meet your deadlines,
and if you're good to work with. If you get 2 of those, they'll call you back. It's like,
but you need 2.
You need 2 of those. You don't have to have all 3, but you need at least 2 of those, and that's those are the best 3 things.
Oh, and have we? Because we've been building the teams now, so we're the ones, you know, and we've definitely seen all 3 of them.
We've seen all the 3 of them. We're
yes,
kind of like who? All right, wait. Well, he's really good, but he's not good to work with, or she's really like you kind of like start getting those ideas.
And when you have 2 of those, you can. You know, it's like you kind of adjust to what each team member needs. Like, oh, okay, so this person, they're amazing at the artwork, but they have time management skills. Okay, now I know to keep on their butt a little more than, say, another person or be like, okay, their art skills aren't great, but they're fantastic. They're a great team player. They take notes super well, and they put in their stuff on time each time. Great, we'll just do more meetings to do more revisions along the way. You know, it's like, we can adjust to 1 of those. We can't adjust to 2 of those. We don't have time. You know, it's like we don't have the things. But as long as they have 2 of those, we can fill in the blanks. Yeah, it's like, and it's, oh gosh, it's hard to find someone with all 3 because we're all human.
Yeah, that's why I feel like I remember when I was in school, I felt like everyone was just so focused on, I'm gonna be the best artist, and if I'm the best artist, they'll give me a call back. And I I'm a good artist, but I know I'm not the best artist at all. And it feels like I keep getting called back because I know people like to work with me and I get my stuff done on time. And And actually for what we've done and where I've gotten in my career, it had nothing to do with how well I drew anything.
I think you're the best artist.
Well, I love that you think that, but I feel like for me personally, like there's always this idea of like, oh, I gotta level up my art skill, I gotta do this, and I gotta love, and it's like just like focus on what your ideas are. I've taught classes. I always try to get kids to focus on like, what are your ideas? What are you interested in telling? Because that's what brings the extraness to it. If you're just trying to like match a style or come in and match a show, okay, they've got teams of people who already know the show. What's the extra thing you bring in here? What's the thing that you do that's your thing? And that I guess, yeah, that would be the best advice I could probably give, is find out, again, going back to everything, figure out who you are, figure out what it is you want to say, and then just say it.
Okay, I got an extra one though, because we've worked with people all across the board. We've worked with artists who were like from the 90s, you know, who are still working today, and they're fantastic to work with. But we've also worked with, you know, really green, like new to the industry people. And it's like, I think it's, and it's something I learned in my first jobs in the industry. We were in games at the time, but like, you gotta put your ego aside a little bit. There's definitely a very big separation between your personal expression and artwork and work, you know. So it's like I had to really compartmentalize it, and like those are two extremely separate things, and that'll be the best thing you can do for yourself. Because like I had to start doing a mantra of like, whenever I get notes, it used to devastate me. You know, I used to be like, oh my God, I'm awful. I can't do this.
They just told me I'm the worst person
I'm a
ever.
fraud. And it's like, no, they're just doing their job and they just want the best thing possible. Granted, if you have a boss who is coming at you and calling you names and calling you stupid, that's a bad boss.
Yeah, that's terrible.
But like, if they're just coming at you and be like, let's do a note session, there's always going to be notes. Yeah. Always, no matter what, even if it's the best artist in the history of the world, there will be notes for each project because it's not your personal work.
There's always notes because we don't know how to read each other's minds.
Exactly. We're all human, and they have a vision. You have a different vision. They're trying to come together and make the best thing possible. So when I would get notes at the first time, the only thing that would keep me from completely falling to pieces was to say to myself in my head, it's just notes. It's just work. This is just notes. It's just work. And now that we're on the other side and we're giving notes, I will tell you 100% of the time, it's not personal to the artist at all. It's never been. It's always notes to be like, oh, I talked with the client. They want it to look like this. This looks amazing, but they want it more like, you know, this, more blue or more green or whatever. And it has nothing to do with the artist. And the ones that are like, oh, okay, I've got it. And they just hop on real quick. It's like, yes, that's the easy to work with part. Not just like agreeing to everything, but the like understanding notes aren't personal. And there's no way to avoid them, and that you're going to get notes in it. And if you're feeling frustrated because you're not able to get your own personal vision into things, then get a side project, do your own thing. There's YouTube. You can make your own stuff. You can draw on your own, like get that expression out. Because we're all artists. Yeah. But the work one is the work one. That's someone else's vision. It's someone else's project.
And even in those projects, that's someone else's vision. Like for this movie we just got done making, there was so much of the character that I found I was relating to, where it's like, okay, that's my point of view. I can bring into this. And there's always different ways. It's finding those footholds. It's finding those handholds where it's like, oh, okay, this is where my idea can fit in here. Oh, this is where I can find a place. You just have to keep looking and be creative.
Oh, yeah. And there was plenty of times when the artist would send something back, like a designer or an animator would add something extra, and we encouraged that because that was kind of like the way the movie was going. But like not all of them fit. Yeah. But it doesn't mean they're any less hilarious or great or look wonderful. But it's like just what fits with this thing. Again, being the overseer for the whole thing, you know. But it's like has nothing to do with the artist. We don't hate them. Yeah. I know personally. Yeah, as an artist, you're like, oh my God, they hate me and they hate everything about me. No, they don't. But then again, if you do run into people like that, they're just blame bosses and go get a better job. Yeah.
There's great ways to give feedback, and telling someone flat out, I hate this what you've done.
I hate you and everything you stand for.
Okay, maybe let's talk something else here.
All right, I know y'all have some other stuff going on today. What's the best way for people to follow your work?
Well, can't go wrong with going to our website, chubbybeagle.com. That has our links. That has our every way to get a hold of us. There's even a contact form that we we're small. We do actually read that stuff.
Yeah.
It doesn't go into the abyss. Yeah, and there's also, you can also go to the website of our current project, the big movie we're working on, maxi.com, which will be releasing this summer, and it is summer, so it's coming super soon.
Yeah.
So go check it out, sign up for the newsletter, and you'll get notified when the movie's out. We can't wait.
We're also on Instagram, Chubby Beagle. I think we're Chubby Beagle on Instagram.
It's all linked on our website.
It's all linked on the website.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember it offhand, really.
All right. Those links will be in the show notes if anybody wants to check them out. So they can just click right on them. I appreciate y'all's time. Best of luck in all future endeavors.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, again, thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
this is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Look forward to checking in with y'all maybe down the road and see how things are going.
Definitely.
Definitely would love to
Yeah.
be on again.
All right. Thanks. I'll talk to you on the other side of this musical exit.
Great. Thank you.